What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In this video today, we're going to take a look at Tkinter Designer, which is a tool that allows you to design your Tkinter graphical user interface in Figma, so by using drag and drop, and then turn it into a Python application. So let us get right into it. Alright, so we're going to take a look at Tkinter Designer in this video today, which is a tool that is going to allow us to create Python graphical user interface applications using drag and drop, using point and click, using the mouse basically. Now, Tkinter Designer itself is not a GUI design tool. What it does is it allows us to use Figma designs as the basis for our Python GUI applications. So it takes a Figma design and turns it into a Python GUI application based on Tkinter. Now, this is only limited to the visual part, so if you want to have some advanced elements, if you want to have some functionality, you still have to code it yourself, so you have to code the logic of your program yourself, but you can design everything. You can use the colors and the shapes and everything. You can design these things in Figma, and you can use that as a basis for your GUI application. So for those of you who don't know what Figma is an interface design tool that allows you to prototype and design user interfaces, for example. And I myself am not very experienced with it, but you can easily figure out how to do some basic stuff. So for example, I want to have a frame here, and let's say I'm designing a login window. What would I want to have here? I want to have a text that says username. Below it, I want to have a text box, so that would be a rectangle, something like this. And then I want to copy this. I want to paste it down here. I want to say I also want to have a password field, and then maybe I want to have a button, which is just another rectangle, and this is going to have a text on it, which is going to say login. So that's now just very basic stuff. I can then also design this in a better way, so I can maybe adjust the size of this. I can maybe adjust also the proportions, maybe the font size here. I want to decrease it to 14 or something. Then maybe I want to also make this a little bit smaller. Then maybe I want to have some rounded edges. So I could say, let's decrease the size of this one. Actually, let's copy and let's remove this one, and let's copy and paste this one. And let's add some corner radius here. So let's make this a little bit more rounded, and also the same thing for the button. And then maybe also make this a little bit smaller. Maybe something like 16, and then resize that a little bit, and then center this, and then you can adjust the colors. Whatever you want to do, you can do it here using the mouse in Figma. And the idea of Tkinter Designer now is to take this design and turn it into a Tkinter GUI application, at least the visual part, as I said. Now, you might be asking, how does the tool know what each element is? These are just rectangles and texts. Now, this happens, or this works, by using certain names for the elements. So if we go down here in the GitHub repository to instructions, you're going to see that you have to name the UI elements with certain, or you have to name them a certain way. So text, it doesn't really matter what you name text, but for buttons, you need to name them button. For text areas or text boxes, you need to enter, or for entries in text areas, you need to name them text box and text area. And by using these names and by grouping items together, the tool knows what to do with these elements. So for example, let's resize this and make this a little bit smaller. Let's take all of this and center everything. Now, for example, if I want to say that these two are entries, I need to name them text box. So I need to go to this one, I need to double click here, and I need to name it text box. I do the same thing for this one, text box. Now for the labels, it doesn't matter. I can just call them whatever. They're called username and password. Here now for the button, in order to say that this is a button, I have to name it button, but I also need to say that this text belongs to the button. So I'm going to actually take these two, I'm going to right click, I'm going to group them together, and the group is then going to be called button. And then maybe let's change the color of the frame a little bit. So maybe let's do something like this, and then maybe also change the color of these two texts here to white. And let's say this is the user interface I want to use. Now, in order to do that, what I have to do is I have to download Tkinter Designer, and I have to pass the URL to the design, and I have to pass my API key, or my my key, basically, my credentials. So I'm going to take this here. I'm going to take the URL of the GitHub repository, and I'm going to use a terminal here to clone this repository into my current directory. So git clone this directory, and then I'm going to go into this directory and I'm going to run the application in GUI, and this is called GUI.py. Now this is going to open this window here, and this window itself, this application itself, was created by this application. So this user interface here was created with Figma and was created with Tkinter Designer. So you can see it works kind of fine. And what we need to do now is we need to get the token ID. So let me move this to my second screen. We need to have the URL of this design. So I'm going to copy and paste this into into the GUI application here. And then I'm going to also generate a token. How do I do that? I do that by going outside of this design, going to my settings, and then I can go to security. I can go to generate new token. In my case, I already have one, so I'm not going to generate one. And I'm going to just copy paste this token. So I'm going to go to the directory where I have it stored. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it here in the field. So I'm going to basically paste this here. Hopefully this is censored. And then I'm going to choose an output path, which is going to be, in this case, the current directory. And I'm going to say generate. So once I click on that, you will see here in the command line that it creates the elements. So it creates username, text box, password, button. And now I can close this application, and I can say, where am I right now? I'm in the Tkinter Design. I have to go to build, and in build now I have this GUI.py application. So if I run this, you can see I have my graphical user interface application here. I can type some stuff, and I can use my button. You can already see there is an event linked to it. So there's a functionality, button 1 clicked. And of course, this doesn't have any functionality. So I would have to go into the code now, into the GUI.py code, and I would have to change the functionality. So you can see all of this is designed using Tkinter. And if I want to change the functionality of the button, I would have to replace the command by something else. So for example, I could go here and say, let's call this login function. And what I want to do is, if the entry1.get is equal to neural9 and entry2.get is equal to password, then I want to print success. Otherwise, I want to do nothing, and this is going to be the functionality of my button. So it's going to call the login function. So if I run this again now, and I type some basic stuff in here, nothing happens. If I type neural9 and password, this should print success to the command line, as it does. And of course, you can adjust some more stuff. You can add some masking, so basically having a different character in the password field, and all of that. But this is basically how you can do that. Now, this doesn't work for all the UI elements. You cannot use checkboxes. You cannot do fancy stuff here. But you can have some basic stuff like text and inputs, like entries and text areas and buttons. So if you just want to structure your design in a very basic way, you can do that by using Figma and Tkinter Designer. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.